When I first became a dad, I thought patience was waiting, but I was wrong. It's something totally different. Let's rewind. When you are about to have a kid, everyone gives you their 2 cents. There's always somebody with advice. There's somebody who, will tell you, hey, you're not going to sleep a lot, which is true. You're not going to sleep a lot. You're gonna have to do the feeding. You gotta use this diaper. You gotta use this bottle. You gotta formula feed. You gotta breastfeed. Whatever it is, there's always a lot of people talking about their 2 cents, their advice. But no one ever tells you about the patience that you have when you're about to be a dad and everything that comes with it. You think you think you're prepared to have kids, and it's just a totally different ball game. And there's just a lot that goes in with that. First and foremost, like patience, as I said in the beginning, it's not about waiting, right? You talk about relationships. It's like, oh, I cannot wait to meet my dream girl, my dream boy, whatever it is. And it's like, soon, any day now, they're going to walk in. I just got to wait and wait, and then they'll walk into my lives, right? Or you work hard, you wait, and then you'll get that promotion or whatever that is. Patience is running on fumes and you hear a crying baby, right? You're running on 2 hours of sleep. You finally fall asleep. You get the baby to fall asleep, and then the baby starts crying again, and you got to get up. And then your wife, whether they're breastfeeding or they're pumping, they have to do that as well. So now you're both up, and you're sleep deprived, and then you're dealing with this other person, and this patience is just it's a different thing than I ever thought. I grew up an only child. My wife was an only child, and we basically had the rule of the we ruled the roost. Like, it just, growing up, I mean, I would do whatever I want whenever I wanted. As an only child, I mean, within limitations, within limits, right? The parents, my mom would tell me, you can't do that, you can't do this. But for the most part, like, if I wanted to play with a toy, I'm by myself, I could play with that toy. If I wanted to watch TV and I was alone, I could watch TV. Now, there's another little human being, and they want your attention every single second of your day. And it's kind of like, they're so cute, so you can't get mad at them. But then there's those days where, you know, for those that aren't parents, there's a thing where babies become colicky, meaning they're just inconsolable. They're crying. They just either their tummy hurts, or you. That's the other thing too. They never tell you. When babies are sick, remember, they can't talk. They can't voice, like, oh, my tummy hurts. Oh, my head hurts. Oh, this is bothering me. You don't know. So you're playing a constant guessing game, and they're screaming and you're sleep deprived. And then it's just like, ah. But, that's just part of this parenting game. And I remember the week before my wife gave birth to our first kid, we were sleeping. My wife obviously was not sleeping well because she was, 9 months pregnant, but we were getting full night's sleep. And then my daughter was born, and it was just every 2 hours. Well, she wasn't eating very well. She wasn't latching, or we didn't. This is the other thing they don't tell you when you have kids. And this is something that blows my mind, right? One of the most essential things to keep a human being alive is to make sure they're fed. And they don't tell you a lot. There's not a lot of education on feeding your baby, on, pumping, on breastfeeding, on you can hire consultants, but like for new parents all across America, like it costs money, first of all, and there's not a lot of education, which is mind blowing to me. Even at one of the top hospitals in New York, at NYU Langone, like, you would think there'd be a lot more education. We went to like this new like parenting class for first time parents, and they talked about swaddling. They talked about bouncing the babies or burping the babies, and then they just kind of skimmed over feeding, and it's just blows my mind. So my daughter, when she was born, she we didn't know. Like you think, like you read these books and they say, well, they can only have so much food. So then we thought we were overfeeding, and or she was going to eat too much and then throw it all up. But we found out we were underfeeding her for the first like few days, and so we have new parent guilt. And so it took us a lot of trial and error to figure out how to feed our kid. And then you don't know if they have if they have a tongue tie or anything like that. And it's just like every 2 hours, the moment you put them down, listen, it takes a while to fall asleep ourselves, and you start falling asleep, and all of a sudden, you get up and you repeat. You get up, you put them down, you feed them, you play with them, you burp them, then they go back to sleep. And for 6 weeks, it's just like you're a zombie. And at some points, it's just like you can't handle like this stress. It's just common. Every few hours, the baby's gonna cry, the baby's gonna cry, and that life that you lived before, where you wanted to watch a TV show, that's gone. You wanted to go work out, that's gone. I mean, within reason. I mean, if you can work out a schedule after a few weeks with your spouse, your loved one that just had a baby, then you can squeeze in a little workout, and that's usually after a few weeks, months. But even then, like, you have to have the monitor around, and just things that you used to want to do are now in the hands of someone else. And it starts getting to a point where it's like, when is it going to end? But then the reward, the payoff is you see these beautiful kids and their smiles, and then you see how they progress from like one day to the next. Changes happen, right? They start sitting, they start crawling, they start doing funny noises and mimicking you, and you're like dead tired. And then all of a sudden, you start snoring, and then you hear a baby go, because you're snoring, they're mimicking you snoring. And that patience that I got from watching my kids is just like knowing that my life is much more now, and it belongs to this other human being to help mold them into a good person. A person that I want to be, and the person that I would have loved to have been, right? There's a lot of stuff that we did growing up that we can correct, that we learn from. And there's still going to be mistakes that we make you know, as a parent. So I think that one of the things that I learned is that, you know, a lot of times my day is done, right? I would love to have gone to a movie, but I have to wait till they're a little older. Now, I love reading. I mean, you can see the books behind me. I'm a huge Stephen King. I'm a big horror fan. And I had to wait. I have another YouTube channel where I talk about true crime, and I talk about horror and paranormal stuff and cryptids, all these silly things. Well, silly to some, but I find it fascinating. And I tried to do that while my kids were young. My son was a newborn. My daughter was 2, and I had to put that on hold and wait to do that, because this was more important. Being a father right now was more important, right? There's an opportunity to be something that I didn't have. And it's not just me. There's a lot of us that grew up that didn't have the full attention of our fathers. And it's no bad, no harm said to them, or no, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that's just how it was. Dads worked 40, 50 hours a week. They came home, you had dinner, and you went to sleep. And then you repeat. I've been fortunate enough to just put a lot of my endeavors on hold. I've been put a lot of my personal, goals on hold, to see the development of these little human beings. Something that I never got, and my dad didn't get to see my first real steps, or a lot of these milestones, and a lot of fathers haven't gotten that. And I think that's just like putting things into perspective, because now it leads me to this one moment where, before my kid was born, my firstborn, I was up for this TV show. And I had a director session, and I met with this director. His name was Derek Cienfrance. And in a director session, it's basically like a big callback, a really good callback in terms of the director wants to meet with you because they're considering you for the role. And when I got into that room, you either read again for the director or you just have a meeting and talk about the show, what it entails, what they're expecting of the character, and all that. And instead of all of that, we talked about being fathers. I told him my wife was about to have our first baby, and he said, "You know what? When you have that first child, it changes you. It changes the way you work. It makes you want to be better. It motivates you." And it was a conversation that stayed with me at that time, but it makes so much more sense now. Now that I have these children, where I honestly, I haven't had a full night's sleep. I didn't have a full night's sleep up until like maybe a couple months ago because kids wake up constantly. But now I can see the growth and development of these children and all the lost sleep, all of the lost opportunities of like going to the movies or hanging out with friends or working out or whatever it was, stuff that I wanted to do selfishly. I got to be a witness to for my kids, and they got to see their father every day, literally every single day. And that's just a beautiful thing. So I think that patience, with children teaches you something else, that there's just so much more to this world than just our selfish endeavors. And sometimes those selfish endeavors, those things, those personal goals that we want to attain can be elevated and given more inspiration through being a parent, because you see what these kids give you in terms of love and just pure joy. It motivates you to be better, and it gives you a clearer head. Things that I was trying to do back when I was like first a dad and I had to put on hold and I wasn't able to do, I'm doing now, and it's with a clearer head, and it's much more focused. And I think that's due to learning this new patience. And sometimes I, the only child, I is not the only one in this world, and sometimes people need me more, and that has helped me become a better team player. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with that. But there's still some days where the kids, like yesterday, we were at Costco, and our tire, we got a nail in it. And both my wife and I were so overstimulated, and the kids were hyper. They were just wired from the day. And you find these moments where you just want to like scream, and you see them do something so silly, so stupid. It's just so cute. You're like, it's worth it, right? You look past all the things that frustrate you, and you know the lack of rest, the lack of peace sometimes from wired kids, and it's just a beautiful moment because you see them fall asleep and they're so peaceful, and they're starting to develop their own thoughts, their own jokes. They're saying funny things to each other. They're at the age now where they have their own little arguments with each other, and they say some really funny insults to each other, which we have to like scold them, but like when we turn around, we giggle, and it's all worth it at the end. So I think that patience is not just about waiting, it's about assessing the situation of that you're in at the moment, and just enjoying the moment. I think that's one of those things that is going to be a repetitive thing in life, is just we tend to want more, 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 and we don't appreciate what we have at the moment. So those are my thoughts for the day. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like it, give it a little thumbs up, and for those 3 or 4 of you that are watching right now, I appreciate it, and please tell more people if you feel driven to. Thank you so much, and I'm Jorge.